International 1086. Morning frost settles heavy on the barns of Minnesota. The fields lie quiet, a soft white breath on the black soil. And somewhere past the silos, a red tractor idles slow, diesel smoke curling against the pale dawn. That's the International Harvester 1086, born in 1976, a workhorse built for men who never quit. When the winters got longer and the fields got bigger, this tractor stepped forward, strong and steady, like a friend who showed up when the snow hit hard. Under that bold red hood beat a 436 cubic inch diesel heart. 6 cylinders. About 131 horsepower. Not the flashiest numbers, but power that pulled all day and still had breath left after sunset. It didn't bark or roar, it had that deep, slow rumble that rolled through the cab floor and right up your boots. Out here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Ohio, farmers remember that sound. On mornings when frost glued the gate latch shut, you'd twist the key, wait on the glow plug, and she'd cough once, then hum to life, smooth and sure. That hum told you, you're gonna make it today. The 1086 changed what winter felt like. The new cab, tight and warm, sealed out the wind. You could watch the snow blow past the windows while the heater wrapped around you like a wool coat. The view was wide, the seat high, and for the first time, work in January didn't feel like punishment. Its 16-speed transmission with torque amplifier gave you range and control when the ground turned slick. Whether you were pulling a chisel plow through frozen clay or dragging feed wagons through the yard, she held her line. Steady as the man behind the wheel. Folks say it wasn't fancy, but it got the job done. That's what counted. In small towns across the north, you could spot that red paint against the snow-proud American red. At the county fairs, the talk always turned to the 1086. Could it outpull a Deere 4440? Some said yes, some swore no. But everyone agreed, the 1086 had the heart. I once met a farmer down in southern Wisconsin who ran his 1086 30 winters straight. Said all he ever changed was oil and filters. He'd grin and say, everything else built right the first time. Today, those tractors still turn up at auctions, paint faded, decals cracked, but that rumble's still there. Old-timers stop, lay a hand on the fender, and remember. The climb up that tall step. The smell of warm diesel. The hum that meant another acre done. That steady red hum still echoes across the frozen fields of Wisconsin, reminding us of a time when strength was simple, and steel had soul. But before red ruled the north, another color, bright, bold, and pure orange, was rising on the horizon. A machine built for open land and wide skies. Let's turn east, to the next giant of American grit, the Allis-Chalmers 220. Allis-Chalmers 220. Out on a cold Wisconsin morning, the snow hasn't yet melted from the fence line. A low orange glow rises through the mist, not from the sun, but from steel. That's an Allis-Chalmers 220, one of the boldest tractors ever to touch the frozen ground of the Midwest. Built from 1970 to 1973, the 220 wasn't shy about what it was. Big, square, and all business. You could spot that bright Persian orange a half-mile away, rolling steady down the road. Farmers didn't just drive it, they noticed it. Under the hood ran a 426 cubic inch turbocharged diesel, good for about 117 drawbar horsepower, but it felt like more. When that turbo whistled and the black smoke curled, you knew something serious was happening. This was Allis-Chalmers saying, "We can run with the big boys." And in the north, it did just that. The 220 handled heavy tillage when frost still clung to the ground. It could pull a 7-bottom plow through clay that made lesser machines spin and groan. The power was smooth, not sudden, a deep, steady pull, the kind you felt through the seat and up your arms. Most farmers remember how it started, even on mornings cold enough to freeze breath on the inside of your cab glass. You'd hit the key, give her a sniff of ether, and she'd come alive, that long, rolling rumble filling the barn lot. The cab wasn't fancy. Just metal, glass, and heat from the engine bay. But you could see everything. Wide front view, tall exhaust stack, and that hood stretching out like a promise. The kind of view that made a man feel he could take on the whole field before breakfast. In Minnesota and northern Ohio, you'd see them hauling wagons of corn to the elevator, snow piled on the fenders, orange paint dulled by years of sun and dust. And yet they kept on year after year, because the 220 was built heavy where it counted. A farmer in central Wisconsin once told me, "That tractor never quit on me." I did, sometimes, but she never did. That's the kind of bond old Alice built, honest, unspoken, and forged in diesel smoke. At the county fairs, the orange crowd always stood proud. They didn't have as many machines as Deere or IH, but they had heart. And when that 220 rolled up to a pull, the ground shook, not from noise, but from respect. Today, you'll still catch that flash of orange at farm shows, the paint shining like sunrise over new snow. Kids climb up the steps, wide-eyed. Old men nod slow, remembering the winters they beat together. The Allis-Chalmers 220 wasn't just about horsepower. It was about pride, a quiet, hard-working pride from a company that built its machines the way folks built their lives, solid, honest, and meant to last. When that engine settles down to idle, and the air smells of warm diesel and cold earth, you can almost hear it whisper, "We were here when strength had color." And as the orange fades into the horizon, another sound begins to rise, deeper, heavier, white paint shining through the frost. A tractor built for stubborn land and hard pullin'. Next up, the Case 1570, the White Knight of Winter Fields. Ford TW10. It's early dawn in northern Ohio. The light is thin, and the ground still holds last night's frost. Out by the machine shed, a soft blue shape waits, metal cold, but loyal as ever. That's the Ford TW10, the blue workhorse that helped carry farmers through the hard years of the late 70s. Built between 1979 and 1983, the TW10 was part of Ford's new generation, simple, strong, and easy to keep running. It wasn't built to impress. It was built to work. And on the frozen plains of Minnesota or the rolling farms of Ohio, that's exactly what it did. Beneath that blue would lived a 401 cubic inch turbocharged diesel, good for roughly 120 horsepower. When you turned the key, that engine didn't roar, it growled, deep and patient, like it understood the job ahead. The turbo whine came up soft, almost musical, as the engine warmed. Farmers loved how it started in cold weather. Even when diesel felt like syrup and breath turned to frost on the glass, the TW10 would crank steady until it caught, then settle into that slow, honest rhythm that told you she was ready to work. The cab wasn't fancy, but it had what mattered: heat, visibility, and comfort enough to get through a 12-hour day. The view from the seat was pure blue steel, simple gauges, long hood, and that proud Ford badge shining through the mist. The dual power transmission was a big deal. 16 forward gears, shift on the move. Smooth, reliable, and forgiving, perfect for a farmer running long rows in clay soil or pulling hay wagons over slick gravel. Across Wisconsin and Minnesota, the TW10 earned a quiet reputation. Not flashy. Not fast. But steady. It sipped fuel, held traction, and never complained. A machine for men who wanted their tractors like their mornings simple and strong. I knew a farmer near Duluth who called his TW10 Blue Sunday. Said it was the only thing that started no matter how cold it got. He'd grin, tap the hood, and say, "She's like a preacher, loud enough to wake the whole county when she's ready." The TW10 was also a bridge between old and new. It kept the solid mechanics of the 60s but brought a cleaner cab, better hydraulics, and smoother handling. It proved that progress didn't need computers, just good steel and good sense. At county fairs, the blue crowd never shouted. They just nodded when their machines fired up without fuss. Pride ran quiet, like the tractor itself. Even today, those old TW10s still run chores on small farms, blue paint faded to gray, but engines still honest. They remind us that the best machines aren't the ones that look good, they're the ones that show up when the work needs doing. When the day's over, and that blue hood glows under the last orange light, you can still hear that soft hum rolling across the field, steady, faithful, proud. But out west, in the wide cold fields of Minnesota, another giant was waiting. Green paint, yellow wheels, and a name every farmer knew by heart. Next up, the John Deere 4440, the legend that defined what a tractor should be. Case 1570. The wind comes off the prairie sharp and clean this time of year. You can hear it whistle through the fence posts, taste the frost in the air. And out there, sitting proud against the snow, a white tractor waits. That's the Case 1570, the white knight of winter fields. Built from 1972 to 1978, the 1570 carried the mark of change. It was the last of the true case-built giants before the company joined with International. It looked different, that long white hood, squared cab, and bold Comfort King stance. Farmers didn't just see a tractor. They saw a statement, power with purpose. Underneath the clean lines lay a 504 cubic inch diesel, 6 cylinders strong, pushing up to 180 horsepower. Back then, that was near the top of the heap. It was power that meant business, the kind that made a man lean forward in his seat, grin, and drop the throttle. When you fired up a 1570 on a cold Minnesota morning, you felt it through the ground. That low thump of compression, the blue haze curling from the stack, and the smell of warm diesel filling the air. She didn't just. The cab on that tractor was something else. Wide glass, soft seat, and heat that actually worked. Case called it Comfort King, and they meant it. When the snow blew sideways, you could watch from inside, snug and dry, while the world outside turned white. The power shift transmission was its signature. 12 forward gears, smooth as a handshake. You could shift on the go, keep your momentum, and never lose your pull. That made all the difference when plowing through heavy loam or frozen ridges. Farmers across Wisconsin and Ohio loved that reliability. It pulled deep, ran steady, and asked for little. Change the filters, keep her greased, and she'd run all season without complaint. I remember one January up near Eau Claire, 20 below, wind sharp enough to cut rope. A neighbor's Deere froze up tight, but his Case 1570 rolled out of the shed like it was spring. He laughed, said, "Guess white paint keeps the frost off." That's how it was with the 1570. Dependable. Confident. A little stubborn, maybe like the men who drove it. At summer fairs, you'll still see one gleaming in the lineup, paint polished, the eagle decal proud on the hood. Kids stare at the size of it. Old hands just smile, hearing the echo of its deep-throated idol somewhere in their memories. The Case 1570 wasn't the loudest tractor of its time, but it had soul, that quiet strength that fit the North. When you saw one cresting a hill at sunset, white paint glowing against the fading light, you knew what American power looked like. Even now, decades later, that look still turns heads. Steel, diesel, and pride built to last when winters were long and men worked harder. And as the white fades into dusk, another color takes its place: deep blue, clean lines, and the hum of British-born engineering tuned for the American heartland. Next up, the Ford TW10, the blue workhorse that proved toughness comes in every shade. John Deere 4440. The sun's just lifting over an Iowa cornfield. Dew sparkles on the stalks, and somewhere out there a familiar rumble breaks the quiet. Deep, steady, and full of life. That sound belongs to a legend, the John Deere 4440. Built from 1978 to 1982, the 4440 wasn't just another tractor. It was the tractor of its time, the heartbeat of 1,000 Midwest farms. It replaced the 4430, but what it really did was redefine what farmers expected from a working machine. Under that green hood sat the 7.6-liter turbocharged diesel, 6 cylinders of pure confidence. It made about 130 to 160 horsepower, depending on setup, but it wasn't the numbers that mattered. It was the feel. The 4440 pulled with authority, smooth and sure, the kind of pull that made a man nod and say, "That's enough." It came with the Soundguard cab, the quietest of its day. Inside, you could finally hear the radio instead of the engine. The seat was soft, the air clean, and when rain hit the roof, it sounded like a steady drumbeat on an old barn, peaceful, comforting, right? Farmers who'd spent their lives breathing dust and diesel suddenly found something new: comfort. And once they tried it, they never wanted to go back. Out in the fields of Nebraska and Kansas, the 4440 became a partner. It worked sunrise to sunset, planting, plowing, hauling, and it kept going. There's a saying from that time: if it's green and it's got a 40 on it, it'll run forever. And they did. Decades later, many 4440s still run daily chores, their paint faded, their seats worn smooth, but their engines still sing that same steady song. I remember one man, old Harold down in Boone County. He bought his 4440 new in 1980. Said it was the best money he ever spent. "Never left me stranded," he told me, leaning on the fender. "And when I'm gone, she's staying right here for the boy." That's the kind of bond machines like this built, between generations, between soil and soul. The power shift transmission, the hydraulics, the Bryant. At auctions today, you'll still see one roll across the block, maybe with 10,000 hours, maybe more, and the crowd leans in. Notre. That deep green paint, those yellow wheels, that hum when it starts, it all brings folks back to a time when work was honest and tractors had heart. The 4440 was, and still is, the tractor that defined the late 20th century farm. It wasn't about flash, it was about trust. And that trust earned it a place not just in barns, but in memories. So as the sun dips low and the fields glow gold one last time, we look across this lineup, from the white Case, to the blue Ford, to this green Deere, and realize something simple. Every color told the same story. A story of hard work, hope, and the hum of diesel that built America. Five giants of American farming: red, orange, white, blue, and green, each one with a story, each one with a soul. They worked through snow and sun, through drought and debt, and they never quit. These weren't just tractors. They were the soundtracks of our lives, the hum behind every dawn, every harvest, every quiet Sunday morning. Even now, when one of them fires up out there in a neighbor's shed, you can feel something stir inside. Maybe it's pride. Maybe it's memory. Maybe it's just home. So here's to old iron, honest hands, and fields that never forget. Thank you for riding along with us, for keeping these stories alive, one memory at a time. If one of these tractors reminds you of home, drop your story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more tales from the heartland. May your mornings be steady, your diesel clean, and your fields kind. Until next time, keep those old engines running.